everybody, well, welcome to the video on an introduction to Immortal Empires. So this is going to be going over, Creative Assembly put out a like a newsletter type thing going over Immortal Empires. For those of you who don't know, in Total Warhammer 3, they currently have the one campaign map, and if you've watched me or you've seen anything on that, their campaign map is, well, it's bad. It's really bad. So Immortal Empires, if you own Total Warhammer 1, 2, and 3, will be a much larger campaign map, and it did get data mined a bit. It'll probably look something like this. Maybe not exactly like this, but it'll look somewhere along this lines. It might not have the north, it might not have all the east, but it'll be this same general idea. So what is it doing? Well, it's going to be much larger. Whereas a campaign map in Total Warhammer 3 right now is only about that, this one will be much larger. So what changes are going to happen going into the Immortal Empires map? Well, they actually put out a bunch of news on it. Now, again, for those of you who don't know, I play Total Warhammer 3, Total Warhammer, well, all of them. I play Crusader Kings, Europa Universalis, all these sorts of games, right? So I sort of, if you enjoy RimWorld, Kenshi, any of these games, you probably also enjoy Crusader Kings, Europa Universalis. If you enjoyed those, you probably enjoyed Total War. So I kind of, all those sorts of games fill one weird, wacky niche for me. So yeah, that's where I'm coming from. That's kind of my background. So what's new in Immortal Empires? Now, I'm sure you've seen videos from this on other YouTubers who probably talk better than me and have more information on the game, but I try to make these sorts of videos from the perspective of a dude who, well, let's be honest, I'm not, you know, a big, I try to, what's even the right way to put it? I try to give myself the perspective of a dude who just plays games, because at the end of the day, that's what I do. I play games, right? So what is the news on an Immortal Empires? What does it impact the dude who doesn't play on super legendary difficulty of Doom, you know, min-maxing all the exploits? What does it mean for us? So Immortal Empires is much more than the sum of the game's content smashed together in a large map. Rather, a new mode offers a variety of new features and approaches to the combined battlefield. So what they mean by this is they're actually doing a bunch of changes to some older legendary lords, to starting locations, to a bunch of stuff. It's not just going to be Mortal Empires from Total Warhammer 2. It's not just going to be that campaign map put into Total Warhammer 3. First off, it's going to be much, well, larger. But second off, they're updating a bunch of the older lords. So you have all 86 legendary lords from the other Total Warhammer titles, all of them in total. Be'lakor, it's actually Be'lakor. The apostrophe means that it goes Be, then Lakor. So Be'lakor was a legendary lord, or was he a hero? I never actually unlocked him, if you can believe it. I never actually beat the campaign. He was in Total Warhammer 3, but he was a fan favorite character, and you couldn't actually play him. You could only unlock him after you beat the campaign. Now, for those of you who, well, no, legendary lords are a faction. If you choose a legendary lord, you start with that legendary lord. You can unlock later and add them into your faction down the line as you continue through a campaign, but depending on who you want to start a campaign with, that's who you start with your legendary lord. So Be'lakor will now be a startable legendary lord, not just one you unlock throughout the campaign, with his own factions, with his own faction buffs, potentially his research tree, a bunch of other stuff. We don't know entirely, but Be'lakor will be in it. You won't have to just play the Mr. Potato Head Demon Prince. You can actually play as Be'lakor. Dedicated factions for a number of older legendary heroes, including Grom'badar, Helmengorst, and Volkmar the Grim. So again, going with that, these were legendary lords that you could pick. The AI, I don't believe the AI ever used them. If you pick them, it would replace a different legendary lord on the map, and then you would play as him. So if you played as Grom'badar, you wouldn't get the other dwarf legendary lord on the map. It wouldn't be AI controlled because you started in the same location. So effectively, these three legendary lords are getting their own faction, and they're getting their own location on the map. So there will be more factions on the map. 29 older legendary lords are getting new starting locations, likely because, well, again, you know, this is a large map. A lot of this stuff over here kind of needs to get filled out. Additionally, they could probably have some stuff down here filled out. Really, this entire area over here is pretty sparse and empty. Even the stuff up here can get pretty sparse and empty, to be completely honest. Improve personal faction mechanics for a selection of older legendary lords, such as Volkmar the Grim. So again, some of these older legendary lords, particularly ones that would just replace other legendary lords if you picked them, had no actual campaign mechanics, no faction mechanics. So they're actually going back and adding some. Now, here's the thing. I don't expect these to be super in-depth. I don't expect them to be like crazy, right? They're not gonna like revamp older legendary lords for free. While that would be really nice and great, the problem is no company gives away shit for free. So it would be a great idea, and Creative Assembly has in the past revamped factions like the Undead to give them overall mechanics. But the thing is that I do not believe I don't believe they're gonna go through to Volkmar the Grim and make him like the most fun and expensive. You get what I'm saying here? So it'll be nice to have, for example, Volkmar the Grim. So he's from Empire, he's from the humans, right? So it'll be nice that you could potentially play a human faction, not focused on uniting the Empire, but maybe just based on running around and beating the shit out of undead or demons or stuff like that. And that would be neat. You know, I do agree, and I do think this is actually really good. Just, you know, temper your expectations is, I guess, what I'm trying to say here, right? A new sea lanes featured. So that, I'm not going to read the whole thing. That basically means in general that you can move across the sea, maybe even from over here to over here. They're not really that clear on it, and they don't really say that much, so I'm not going to go over it. New dynamic endgame scenarios. Now, for those of you who've played Stellaris, you have the mid-game disasters and then the end-game disasters. And it seems like what they're going to try to do is try to add some of these mid and end-game disasters. So they're saying, think greenskin invasions or resurgences of the undead. So again, for those who haven't played Stellaris, in the mid and into the late game, you can have disasters that happen, introducing new factions. If you want to call them factions, new factions can be introduced onto the map that are way more powerful than the factions that started on the map, that suddenly change the political landscape, the dynamics, and things like that. You might have to suddenly contend with the fact that a new faction has entered the map from off the universe or whatever, right? It's a Prothean scourge, and they're way more powerful, more numerous. They get to build fleets for free, and they fundamentally alter the map. And that was probably the best thing Stellaris did. So in this example, greenskin invasions or resurgence of the undead, you might have, for example, the Badlands. I'm just spitballing here. If they go from a Stellaris approach, it would be something like the Badlands just start spewing out Savage Orc armies. And maybe the Savage Orcs are stronger than regular Savage Orcs, or maybe they just are more numerous than regular Savage Orcs. Maybe every Savage Orc army just has a Wa attached, so you have to fight 40 of them at a time instead of 20, and they're just way more powerful, and all the other factions have to try to either fight back against them, unite, kitties running around, stuff like that. So that's kind of where I would assume they would go with this, is particularly because they're saying to challenge a late game steamroll. So, you know, if they're introducing, for example, Savage Orc armies start spawning, and the Savage Orc armies have a full Wa on them, and you have to fight 40 of them at a time, that would mean that your super armies that you've been building over the campaign are suddenly going to get challenged. And I'm not saying, I don't know what they're actually going to go with. This could be a total letdown, or this could be really cool. This could just be something where you get into the mid-game, and all of a sudden you get stomped out by the orcs, and you realize, oh, shoot, I had to play better, and you start a new campaign. And to be honest, I don't really mind that, because here's the thing. In a lot of these games that I play, Kenshi, again, Crusader King, Stellaris, often once you get into that mid to late game, the game can get really boring and tedious. And I do have a lot of fun times, actually, where I have lost a campaign to some of these things, and it actually can be more entertaining in a way to lose the game than to win the game by just steamrolling over the end game content. And then the next time you play through, you know you need to do better and stuff like that. So yeah, revamped victory conditions. Okay, so this one is actually there's a post on the forums talking about what they mean by this. What they're trying to do is I think make the victory conditions for actually beating a campaign easier, or at the very least more doable. So as such, we've simplified the victory conditions into more meaningful objectives while avoiding any arbitrary playstyle requirements. So hopefully, for example, winning as the humans means uniting the entire empire, maybe expanding to the southern realms a little bit, maybe wiping out all the undead, and maybe that's how you win your campaign. maybe you don't have to run all the way down into the south and kill every orc on the planet. And one of the things I went through is that by achieving these victory conditions, you will now get a large bonus for it. So the example they gave for the undead, if the undead achieve their victory condition, which presumably would be conquering the entire human empire, if you achieve your victory condition, you get something like 30% reduced winds of magic for all your spells. So, you know, you get a permanent buff for doing it, and they're easier to do, which does seem like a good idea. Corruption rework, they really haven't talked much about it, so there's not much I could say. They're just like, hypothetically, we want things to be different. Like, oh, okay, cool, that's awesome. 8-player multiplayer campaigns. As a bonus, only the host of an Immortal Empires multiplayer campaign needs to own all 3 games. So if you don't own all 3 Immortal Empire campaign, or sorry, if you don't own all 3 Warhammer titles, you can then join somebody who's hosting them, and maybe you can co-op with a friend who owns all of them, or maybe you can join a group and you can experience the giant Immortal Empires map. Maybe you can experience that, and that would be fun, I guess. I mean, it'd be fun for me. I hope the 8-player campaign actually works this time. Here they're talking about why they're calling it a beta, stuff like that. That's not too important. They're just sort of going into technical limitations and balancing limitations of stuff like this. So overall, I do think this is quite a good thing. The things that interest me are the improved personal faction mechanics. Even though I said it wouldn't be that amazing, just being able to, just Volkmar the Grim having new faction mechanics, a new starting location, that's going to make him cooler. That means if you want to play the Empire, you could do, at that point, I think you'd have 4 unique starts, and with 2 of the starts having different faction mechanics, that'll give you a lot more replayability. The new starting locations are the same thing. The dedicated factions are pretty cool. I thought they actually... Oh man, I thought they talked about some stuff here. No, they didn't. I thought they talked about one of the undead were getting a rework. I thought I saw that. Maybe I'm crazy. Anyway, the dynamic endgame scenarios seem really cool too. So overall, I actually think that this seems like a really good thing. Actually, I was kind of excited about this. And that's it. That's this entire video. So thank you all for watching. Make sure to like, make sure to subscribe, make sure to leave a comment down below. Thank you all for watching, and I hope you all have a great rest of your day. Goodbye, everybody.